Kari could not have simply avoided Jolin the next morning. Jolin stood in front of her doorway, not moving until she had explained herself. She kept her mouth shut, stubborn as a mule. Even Jolin was the same since they were blood-related. Though Kari attempted to lightly push Jolin to the side, yet he still stayed put. In her attempt, it was not to be harsh, more to give a sign that she meant no harm. Kari stared and sighed, walking back into her room, locking her door. She opened the window instead. Jolin heard the clicks and instantly tried to open the door. "Kari?" he yelled, then walked back to the door. "Kari!" Kari was already seen running off into the distance. Jolin ran after her, using his god abilities. It only destroyed the nature each time that he took a step. He was suddenly stopped by a sort of force field. It was a glowing pink and surrounding an area in front of him. He looked around, realizing and saw Kari holding her arms up. Tuning out his god abilities, he went back to normal, walking over to her. Kari was furious, and her face quickly showed that. "You think a puny force field will stop me?" Jolin tapped on it. "I am even surprised that you still have magic." "There is nothing to be sure of, brother." Kari darted her eyes at him. "I was not sure of my magic, but it was given by Kadia, not the gods." Kari's force field flashed in a brighter tone, and Jolin closed his eyes from the sudden light. He was temporarily blinded, and Kari turned away. She ran as soon as she got the chance, giving her a head start until Jolin regained his sight. Sprinting, she found another opening through the trees. It was a way to the castle, but she hadn't seen it before. Hearing the thumps of Jolin grinding through the forest behind, she could not hesitate and went to hide behind a large pillar. Jolin searched around inside the forest instead of risking going to the castle grounds. He left the nearest spot and headed back to their home. Kari slumped her body, sitting down on the stone floor, and sighed in relief. She quickly heard steps from afar and instantly looked to the side, seeing a couple of guards in her view. They noticed her and yelled as she continued to sit there, exhausted. "Are you trespassing on castle grounds?" The taller guard spoke boldly as he towered over Kari. Kari was unable to firmly give a response, sitting there, staring at the two with a blank expression. A familiar voice called from the same direction as the two came, seeing the usual pointy-eared, handsome blonde. The guards backed away from Kari and let the other man handle her. "I can take it from here." He nodded his head. "Head back to your posts." The guards did as told, and he focused on Kari, asking why she was there. He thought that there could not have been a reason relating to him, but he noticed that Kari was barely able to understand a word he said. Kari hadn't understood anything after she sat down there. Everything else became a blur and her hearing was fuzzy. She could not fully tell whether it was Jake or a different person, though he helped her stand up, bringing her to a bench on the side. Kari's body was barely functional after trying to use her magic. It was too powerful to use after never practicing. She laid on the man's shoulder for a while, until it took her about half an hour to slowly regain her senses. She sat up straight, not realizing where she was. Looking to her side, the shoulder belonged to a completely familiar face. It was Jake, who was also looking at Kari, but concerned. Jake? Kari covered her mouth with her hands. What? How did I found you sitting on that pillar over there, and you did not respond to anything. So I brought you here to sit on the bench. Jake spoke calmly. Do you remember anything? Kari hesitated and mumbled. Running from my brother. Jake heard her, and his brows furrowed. What? Why? What was he trying to do? Nothing. I was just running away. Kari stood up. I should go now. It isn't proper that I stay. But there surely must be a reason why he's chasing you. Jake stood up as well. Is it because of me? I can face him myself if that is it. He is different from me. Far worse than any god. Kari turned to him. He is an ascended god, which means his power is 10 times greater than the average higher god. Thus he is too strong, even for you. Jake sighed and lightly rubbed the back of his neck in stress. It seemed that Jolin was far more powerful than any other, and still Kari managed to run away from him. For now. Jake tried to think of a solution in his head, but Kari would not have wanted him to have any part in it. As they thought in silence, Kari started to walk away in the direction of the town. Kari, wait. Jake followed behind her. What are you going to do? Kari continued walking. I have no clue. What if he is watching you right now? Jake walked in front of her. It can assist him to easily track you. Then that will be better. Kari pointed her focus on her mind. I am going to the nearby town to walk around. Jake gently placed his hands on both of her arms, hoping that she might listen to him. Kari looked up at him, taking note that he was still towering over her. She looked forward from his face, down to his shoulder height. As stubborn as she is, she lightly pushed his hands off, trying to think about avoiding him again. Jake let go and sighed, but instead he picked up Kari from her legs and held her in the air with both his arms supporting her body facing up. What? Jake, put me down! Kari whispered. I refuse. Jake walked toward the town. I am taking you to the town myself to ensure your safety, and you are not strong enough to stop me. Kari pouted and looked off to the side. End of section 11.